everyone, Lisa Swaim here, and I work with Victoria in global programming. So I will continue the presentation and again ask you to reflect about your own academic culture in the following contexts. Okay, number 5. If I need help with coursework, my professor expects or allows me to A, complete work individually anyway, B, complete work in a study group, or C, attend office hours, talk to my teaching assistant, or seek tutoring. And number 6, back home, students participate in their courses by A, taking notes, paying attention to the instructor, and following the lecture during class. My dog is growling, sorry. B, asking questions during class about the lecture or readings and sharing their opinions on course topics. Or C, attending office hours to ask questions. He wants to play. Number 7, it is important to me to A, value harmony over disagreement. I refrain from sharing my opinion with others, especially if it is different from someone else's opinion. I don't want to create conflict or damage my friendship. Or B, share my opinion with others, even if it is different from their opinion. Differing opinions can lead to better understanding. Conflict is not always a bad thing. So your answers to those questions help to describe the continuum that's called collectivism versus individualism. Collectivism, according to Hofstede, and Minkoff, is something that pertains to societies in which people from birth onward are integrated into strong, cohesive in-groups, which throughout people's lifetime continue to protect them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. And individualism is defined as pertaining to societies in which the ties between individuals are loose. Everyone is expected to look after him or herself and his or her immediate family. So you can see some of this conversation happening around universal health care coverage in the US, whether the government should provide or whether each individual family should provide insurance and health care for his or her immediate family. In simpler terms, collectivism can be thought of as we, and individualism can be thought of pertaining to I or me alone. And again, it's a continuum. So whether the focus is on the group or the focus is on the individual. So here is Hofstede's study that has to do with national culture, national or regional culture. And you can see that Guatemala, Ecuador, Panama are some of the countries with the most collectivist societies. In sort of in the middle, but also more collectivist than individualist. We can see Taiwan, South Korea, mainland China, Iran, Japan, India. And then towards the individualist end of the continuum, a lot of European countries like Germany, Italy, Great Britain, Australia in the number 2 position as most individualist, and the US as the most individualist country in the world, according to this study. So what does this mean in a US classroom? So in terms of class participation, students are often graded on it. Students are encouraged to ask questions, sometimes challenging questions, to each other and to their professor, as long as it's done with respect and tact. Students are encouraged to voice their opinions. Respectfully debating is not considered to be a bad thing. It's often encouraged. And we do have group work in our classes. Within the group, the individual contribution is important, and you may need to adapt your communication style to work with others in your group, particularly if they're from a wide variety of cultures. In terms of class participation, you may not feel comfortable speaking in large groups. We encourage you to challenge yourself to step out of your comfort zone little by little. So sometimes students do this by setting a goal of asking a question once a week in a seminar class, not necessarily in a lecture class, to maybe making online posts to ask questions and talk about topics, or volunteering to write instead of speak during group work. So oftentimes someone takes notes, and someone else reports back to the larger group. So you could offer to write, but make it clear that you'd like someone else to report. Okay, I think this is the last round of reflecting on your own home academic culture. The next topic pertains to academic values. So my academic culture has taught me to value A, memorizing things and being able to repeat what I've learned word for word to show mastery, or B, reading and remembering but not memorizing. The instructor is more interested in how I interpret the reading and my opinions on the reading, not whether I can repeat the lecture or the readings word for word. Question 8 is a way to approach how different cultures consider academic integrity. So for the most part in the US, academic cultural values pertain to, in an academic context, value original thought and giving credit where credit is due, as we say. In the US, copying someone else's words, even those of someone who is held in high regard in their field, without mentioning that the words came from them, is seen as plagiarism. According to the UCSC Library webpage, plagiarism is presenting the words or ideas of someone else as your own without proper acknowledgement of the source. Some examples of plagiarism in a US context would include buying or using a paper written by someone else, cutting and pasting or rewriting passages without citing the author. So that would mean using parentheses and a citation. Using someone else's words or ideas without citing them, or paraphrasing someone else's words without citing them. If you need more help about plagiarism, you can check the UCSC Library website to learn how to cite your sources. It is also a good idea to find out which citation style your professor is expecting you to use. Those vary by discipline. You can review journal articles from your field and see how they cite their sources, or even just talk to your professors to see what citation styles they expect. There are also online style guides for citations. The University of California Libraries has an online tutorial that you can reference. And there's one more final time for reflection. Think of your own academic culture that you're used to at home and of the examples of the US classroom culture that we've reviewed so far. We will now go over some different scenarios that you are likely to encounter in a US classroom. So the first scenario, you have a test coming up next week, but you do not understand the material that the test will cover. What should you do? Who can you talk to? Give you a second to think about that. There are many ways to solve this problem. You can visit your professor or your teaching assistant during office hours with questions you may have. You can also access Learning Support Services, or LSS for short, on campus to get extra academic help in order to prepare for the test. You can create a study group with classmates, but be sure any work you produce is your own unless you have permission to work together on a project or with your homework. And there's LSS. Another scenario, you're having trouble writing a paper and you don't know how to start. What steps can you take to solve this problem? Again, you can access writing support through LSS. You can also access small group tutoring for modified supplemental instruction, or MSI, supported courses. There is also a writing center, a Westside Writing Center located at Oaks College. These resources are also available online to help you review and to get feedback on your writing. Oh, and if I move myself, you can see those resources better. So here we have LSS. And here the MSI supported small group tutoring. And here you have the Westside Writing Center. And the third scenario, you are assigned to a group for a project, but one person does all the talking and never asks for your opinion. What would you do and how would you handle this situation? So this is a pretty complex one. You have a few options. Remember, you have a voice. Don't be afraid to speak up with your group partners. You can talk to this person privately about how you're feeling and that you don't feel like your opinion is being considered. And you can discuss new options for working as a team, or you can even bring it up to the entire group, depending on your comfort level with doing so. And some, but not all professors would offer team evaluations at the end of the project or team reflections where members can give feedback about their team members and the group process anonymously. But remember, working across cultures is one of the things that we're learning as college students and as working professionals. So this is a good opportunity to practice working with people who approach problem solving differently. And remember, these are just a few options of what you could do with scenario 3. Here are our graphics. All right. We want to offer you a few tips and strategies. We would like to encourage you to use your professor and teaching assistant office hours, the Learning Support Services LSS, the MSI, which is the small group tutoring, your college advisors, and your major advisors. We also remind you that International Student and Scholar Services and Global Programming, which is our area, are here to help you. Be sure to build up relationships with your peers and professors. This will come in handy if you need extra help later. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Here in the US, you are not viewed as stupid if you ask for help. It is actually encouraged and expected. Try to manage your time between classwork, studying, and relaxation. You may need to push yourself out of your comfort zone to adjust to US classroom culture. Don't forget to participate. You can do this by taking notes, posting online, and asking questions in class. You can always ask your global mentor for help in navigating this transition to US classroom culture. They've been through the same thing. And also, we want to remind you to remember your worth. You are valued here at UC Santa Cruz. Today's lesson was reflective of a typical US university classroom. If we had been in the same room together, there is typically a mix of lecture-style classes with sharing, such as quizzes, discussions, and reporting back. Granted, we didn't do as much of that today since this is pre-recorded. Students are encouraged to actively participate, share opinions, and experiences. We hope that different cultural dimensions and different examples have helped you to have a better understanding of classroom perspectives, have helped you to gain some coping strategies to adjust successfully, and have helped you to feel confident about starting class next week. We hope you found this video presentation useful. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact ISSS or Global Programming. And here's our contact information. So in general, we can be found Monday through Friday, 9 to noon, 1 to 4, either by emailing iStudent for international student at ucsc.edu or by writing to Global Programming at ucsc.edu. You're welcome to call us as well, but we know most students prefer email or online communication. Our physical home when we're back on campus will be Classroom Unit Building. Room 103 is the office. And that's just above Corey Plaza, behind the, what are we behind? We're behind the bike co-op up the hill from the Redwood building. Thank you very much. It's been our pleasure to talk with you today, and we wish you all of the luck. Take care.